Hey guys, Tisha here, and we're back for another Love and Marriage Huntsville review. You guys, this show is getting on my nerves. Like, as I was sitting here typing up my notes and all the little parts and everything that people were saying, I was just getting really irritated because I feel like it's a bunch of the same conversations over and over again. Like, let's talk about something else. We've been talking about the Black Expo this whole time, and I'm over it. So we pick back up with this pointless conversation between Marceau and Mel. He is not willing to acknowledge that he does not want Mel to be close to Tisha. He says he wants Mel and Tisha to be good, that he should be able to give an opinion without one saying that it's a jab. He throws jabs regarding what Mel does and continues to throw jabs by calling her t-shirt business and the businesses that she does equal to his trinkets. The issue here is not that he tried to shade Mel, but it's that he keeps referring to the fact that she has a t-shirt business when she has many different things that she does and many different business ventures, we'll say, that she's a part of. So him just honing in on the t-shirts was obviously him trying to shade her. He talks about how I'm getting irritated as I'm reading this, you guys. How her small business isn't doing enough. And she says, well, my business was doing enough for you to want for me to speak at your event until I said that it wouldn't be free of charge. And then once I said that, it wasn't good enough. She brings up how she had a business that did over $1 million in its first year. And he said, but that business went bankrupt. She says, let's be clear, I was going through a divorce. I had to file bankruptcy because my husband filed bankruptcy and I was not about to take on all his debt. That's sad, but Mel has said it on more than one occasion through different blogs and social media when she got mad that this happened. He says everyone at this table and at the table, I guess he was talking about the two of them, have filed bankruptcy. So if you know that at some point you filed bankruptcy, why would that even be something that you would want to throw in Mel's face? Mel brings up, yeah, the difference here is I was going through divorce. You went through it because you're not good with money. She said your finances just weren't right. He didn't say anything to her saying that except that he understands. She said that she could have said that she didn't want to be at the table with people who have $5 million in fraud lawsuits. And he said that he would have respected it. What is going on here? He knows goodness well he doesn't want people to talk about that in that light. You don't want any negativity brought your way, but you're going to sit here and try to act like it's okay. You would be okay with it. Mel points out that you've known me since 2014. And knowing me since 2014, you knew that I was already an entrepreneur for 5 years. And he acts like he didn't know what she was talking about. He was like, I didn't even know what you did. I don't even know what your business was. And she was like, property preservation. The same thing that I put you on to. Him sitting there trying to act like he didn't know all of this and like he hasn't looked Mel up or seen the things that Mel had posted or seen the things that Mel has been tagged in before makes all of what he's saying not believable. Because she even said, like, you knew that I was doing the classes because you've made comments before on social media about the classes and stuff. So which is it? He said he feels like she has so many different businesses because she's just throwing stuff at the board and trying to find something that lands. He adds that the reason why her business is doing good is because of her Black platform, and then he throws in her business acumen. Here's the thing. Let's say Mel is throwing a whole bunch of things at the dartboard, and some of them are landing and some of them aren't. At least she's willing to give herself a try, and she's putting herself out there, because we can say what we want to say. Mel didn't, I can't say she didn't fall to the wayside the way. Mel didn't struggle financially the way that Martell did. Mel was able to get out that house and purchase another house. Mel was able to close her skincare line and start another one with her same chemist. Mel was very hurt in the process of the divorce, but she was able to pick herself back up and do what she had to do for her kids. He then talks about what she does doesn't correlate to the other people who don't have the type of platform that she has. When he said that, I just kept thinking, sir, there's things that you do in your business that people can't do either. People can't build. I can't do home improvement. I was excited when I hung up my curtains by myself. And and you're over here talking about, you know, what's appealing to the crowd of people that came to the Black Expo. You sound foolish. He brings back up the Fletchers, and he says that they put basically 20 on 10, that he just made a simple point. It wasn't something that he kept talking about over and over again. Mel points out that he's missing the point, that him trying to downplay her business acumen is a disgrace. It's disrespectful. Just ask him to stop referring to you, Mel, and that's that. I don't even know what I wrote. He said that she's great in terms of marketing, and he didn't know that she was still in property preservation, but property preservation is a business that he can respect. He feels like just because he's giving an opinion, this is what he tells her, that does not mean he's taking a jab. And Mel basically tells him, please remember that same approach when it comes to me and what I do when I make statements. We then see Tiffany and Lou out, and they're having a picnic in the park with the baby, and she keeps talking about how Lou has not been there. She wants him to be more present, and she wants him to stop being in and out so much. She even asked him at one point, if you said that I could have a baby, that way you can come and go as you please. This exchange with Tiffany and Lou made me uncomfortable, because I could see that Tiffany really does feel down on herself. But the problem is, a part of me felt bad, not for Tiffany, but I felt bad because I was getting irritated by Tiffany, because Tiffany is the one who wanted this. Lou did not want to have this baby. Tiffany talked him into having the baby over and over again. We saw on multiple occasions where Lou said no, like, we're at the end here. Our boys are older. Our kids are older. I don't want to start over. But yet you kept pestering him about having a baby, because I think for some reason Tiffany thought that this would fill some kind of void. I don't know. But she's complaining about him not being as hands-on. But you already knew that he was hesitant about the whole thing. She's talking about how Ace has slowed her down, and how sometimes she just sits in her chair and cries for no reason. That is definitely a sign of postpartum. She tells him about her struggles and how she feels less than. Part of me feels like Lou doesn't understand what Tiffany is saying, because she is telling him her truth, which is she's feeling down and she's not feeling like herself, and her body is morphed, and she thought she would have a better snapback, and she is struggling, but he's not receiving it because she's too busy making snarky comments like, thanks for, you know, like fitness in your schedule and making time for us, in a condescending way or a passive aggressive way. You're not going to reach someone like that. he's just going to kind of be on the defense. For some reason, she thought that life was going to be the same, even with the presence of a new baby. He said, look, I tried to do what I could for the first few weeks of you having the baby. I stayed off of the road, and once I knew that you were good, I left. I do not feel that they were realistic about this. I think Lou understood what a child would do to them, but I don't think Tiffany did. Tiffany has insecurities that Tiffany needs to work out in therapy first by herself, and then maybe later on she can pull him in. But Tiffany has to be willing to be honest and not do what she did with Dr. Francis, I think that's his name, in past episodes, because they try to act like everything was okay, and obviously y'all have some things that y'all need to work on. She brings up, as she's talking about the stuff that's going on and Lou not being there, she brings up how you don't want Ace to feel how you feel about your dad, because you said that your dad wasn't around and you wouldn't want Ace to experience that. And I thought that was a low blow, because I felt like that was a way for her to try to make him feel bad about not being there. But even without me knowing Lou's father, I think it was a different situation. There are a lot of kids, myself included, whose parents may not have always been around. I know that my father was military, and for a good portion of my life, he was deployed a lot, like a lot. Doesn't make him less than because he was deployed. He was serving this country, because it's not his country. He was serving this country, and he was doing what he needed to do for his family. And I feel like that's not the same as a neglectful dad that's just not coming around because they're not coming around. And something about when she said that gave me that feeling, mainly because of Lou's response. She basically wants more time with him, and he agrees that he's going to try to be more present and give her the quality time, the touch and the affection, all those things that she desires. We then have this pointless Black Expo meeting that Kimmy set up. Marcel, because Kimmy's not there yet, even though she set this meeting up, she's not the first to arrive. Marcel brings up him wanting businesses that were relevant to speak to their crowd. As he's speaking, Stormy and Courtney are smiling. I'm wondering if it's because they see through the BS or they think that it's funny. He says that Stormy had a platform before the show, and her business is more relevant. That Mel's started doing more stuff after the show, and that's how she got her people. So if we're going according to that, then he needs to apply that to his wife too, because nobody really knew who Tisha was before this platform. I'm just saying. Martell points out to Marcel that you saying that you didn't want what Mel has because you wanted to appeal to the crowd, and what she does is not relevant. Well, what you do isn't relevant to the community either. And I agreed. Kimmy walks in at this point on the conversation. He repeats what he said to the group so Kimmy can understand. Martell then says, me cutting grass is relevant. He said him cutting grass led to him back then making $120,000. He said that may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot. When I asked Siri, I said, Siri, what's the average salary for American? And Siri said it's $73,000 after tax. So $120,000 for grass is looking pretty appealing to a lot of Americans. It's extremely telling to me when I find myself agreeing with Martell Holt. And I did in that setting, because I feel like Marceau is very arrogant for no reason. I'm not saying that he hasn't created a legacy for himself and that he's not a good contractor, because we saw what he did with Black. So he is capable, but don't down other people's businesses based on what you deem is relevant and irrelevant. As Mel walks in and says hello to everybody, Martell looks at her and says, he's talking about you. I started laughing because despite them no longer being together, despite the nasty custody case and all that other stuff that they had going on, Martell is still trying to sometimes stick up for Mel. And I thought it was funny. Kimmy says sometimes the things that Marceau says is very offensive. We all know that. They talk about what happened. Mel says, yes, he did apologize, but I'm here to talk about, you know, what we need to do to improve for the next one. And I feel like some of the things that we need to do is think more about catering to specific groups, have small breakout focus areas so that they can have more hands-on stuff, etc. Tisha makes an excuse for why they didn't do it, said that she had intended to do it, but they didn't have, I can't remember what she said they didn't have, but there was a reason that they couldn't do it. Stormy says she wanted more of a motivational piece, and she used herself an example saying how, like, part of it is that you have to, like, believe you can do it and you want to do it. And then she said some other stuff, and rather than taking the whole thing that she said, Marceau just took one little piece and changed it up. When she was talking about how a lot of them don't have funds and things of that nature, he just stuck to the motivational aspect of it. She said, that's not what I said. Mel repeated what she had previously said, and then she pulled in Stormy's motivational piece, and then Marceau received it. So Stormy leans into Courtney and is like, okay, do I need to tell you what my questions are? What I want to say in order for him to listen? Marceau then says, I want to know what Courtney's wife had to say. You guys, this man is so disrespectful. Stormy says in her confessional that his level of sass is beyond her. Courtney says that I believe that you need to let Tisha take over because you're all over the place and she tends to be more organized. Martell agrees. That fool. Marceau then said, unlike others, we don't have gender-specific roles here. That's a lie. And I'm going to say why it's a lie. Because you're the same person who talks about how e-commerce is not in your lane. We know that your wife is who advertises for that, so you let her do that. You're also the same person whose wife has created supposedly a hair care line, and she's putting her labels on somebody else's product. So it's not even anything that she really created herself. Then on top of that, Tisha supposedly has 85% in, I don't know which company, but one of your companies, and she doesn't even know what goes on in that company. So you obviously have gender specific roles. Kimmy tries to pull him back and says that you're not having constructive feedback. Supposedly, Kimmy called this meeting, but she's not even running it. What she should have done was she should have said, let's talk about all the positive things that happened at the expo. Everybody gives something positive. Then everybody say one thing that they want us to do better for the next one. And no comment, just take it in. Then you could do your little feedback afterwards, because it's not the way that they did it didn't work. Stormy says when she learned it was a critique for this guy. Oh, basically, if she would have known that, I don't even understand my notes, y'all. If she would have known that this whole thing was just a critique for the Scotts rather than them as a whole collective, then she wouldn't even waste her time and came there. Mel adds once again that she feels like another thing they could have done was been more organized with stuff. And Tisha says, so you feel like the event wasn't organized? And Mel says, absolutely, I feel like it wasn't organized. You had people collecting money the day of the event. Some people didn't even know that money had to be collected. And Tisha didn't like what Mel had to say. She said something slick. Mel's like, we're not even going to go back and forth on it. You have to acknowledge that what happens before and after and during the event matters. And Mel basically was like, look, I got to go. I got to catch a flight. She's going out of town. Marceau says that he's taking everything that they have to say and making notes. Tiffany says, even what the women at the table tell you. And he says, I know you're not used to being valued, but yeah. After he says this, Stormy says he's acting like a bee. He says, yeah, like a bad one. They go back and forth for a little bit. Then for some reason, Maurice asks Stormy why she called him a bee. As Stormy's talking, he goes, okay, sweetie, are you done giving me feedback, sweetie? Marceau says, next time we know who not to invite. And Courtney says, we ain't coming. Maurice wants to know why. Marceau says they aren't needed. We get back again to how they're not organizing. This $100 comes up again. I don't understand why Maurice asked that question. He already knew it was going to create something. Stormy said she's out. Then in confessional, she tells us that she left because she didn't know what Courtney would have done had Marceau kept speaking the way that he was speaking. I'm telling you like this. I've seen my fair share of fights, and those quiet people are the ones that you really need to watch out for. Because they let stuff build up and then they explode. I did not forget how Courtney checked Marceau at his bar when he was taking out the $100 and he was giving us a thing. At one point, he like kind of chest checked Marceau. They leave, and as they're leaving, he's like, all right, bye, Mr. and Mrs. Steele, or whatever their last name is. And this is when we find out that they actually have two different last names. And she says, but he's okay with being called that, though. We then see Kimmy meet up with Nell because Kimmy wants to let her know why she didn't invite Nell to the town hall meeting. There was no point in this conversation. They were just filming a scene because you could have said all of that on the phone. It was no need to have her there and y'all go back and forth. They're okay. Nell said they've been in Huntsville for longer than any of them. It's been like 30-something years with this business. And they talked about it. They're fine. Next, we see Martell meet up with his business partner, who is a general contractor, and they're doing this first home together. He lets us know that it's the first home that he built in a couple years. And I said to myself, because he doesn't have Mel's building license, he couldn't do it. He says that one of the reasons is because him and Mel had to file bankrupt. I don't understand why he keeps pulling Mel in it. Mel don't have nothing to do with your finances. At this point, your finances are your finances. So you don't have anything because you didn't have the financial power. And you don't have a builder's license. Just say that. He said now he's in a better place. His credit is coming back. His money is better. He got his check from the show. Chris Fletcher pulls up and asks Martell after the small talk about what they're doing. He asks him, when you plan on moving out? He tells him about in a week and a half. Chris says, 2 weeks ago, you were told that you needed to be out. I need you out. He says, you were supposed to be out before the 1st. He was like, well, I'm going to be out, before the 1st. He was like, you aren't going to be out before the 1st if you just said you're going to need the amount of time that you said. We need to get you out. His partner says, Chris, I like you, but, you coming a little heavy at my friend here. And Chris is like, I got to look out for my client. I need his partner to be quiet because you don't know the situation. You don't know that he's been told multiple times to go and that he's had several weeks, and he knew when he got in there that it was a month-to-month thing. So at any time that house could be put on the market and he would have to go. Chris says that Martell needs to man up and get out so he can sell the house. It's been months now. He shouldn't still be there. Martell then brings up how he's going to get out. You want to help him move? And Chris said, I'll help you get out of there. He asks him if he spoke to Marceau. Chris repeats everything that we already know about the dinner. Then we also find out that they got sponsorship for the expo. Tisha told Mel that, but she didn't say how much. She wasn't willing to say how much they got from that. Chris brings up how one of the reasons why maybe they didn't want Mel is because they said they only wanted professional speakers. And Martell's partner says, I've heard Mel speak before. She's very professional. Last year she spoke at the BBC and she was great. Martell says, yeah, she's a really good speaker and they need to respect that. He then says how he doesn't like how people forget things. We hear about the whole Sculpt thing, and then how, I guess, Marceau said, guess who owns it now? And we find out from Martell that he only owns it because he told him to buy him out. He said everything that they have is because of Mel and him, and that they made them. That's heavy. I will say this much. I do think that Mel and Martell did a lot for that family at some point. I do believe that Mel tried to pour into Tisha a great deal. And I do believe that now that they're on this show, they're really, really feeling themselves and they're forgetting where they came from. That's about it for this episode. Sorry if it was a little dry. This episode had me all over the place. I couldn't even understand what some of my notes had said. It was so many of them up here. I even cut some of it out because it just seemed redundant to me. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time.